Dwayne, no.
Okay. Welcome back to the From the Fabricator podcast. I'm your host, Max Perlstein. Thanks for being here. We'll get right into it. Thank you to our sponsor this month, FHC, Frameless Hardware Company. Some say all glass entrance, but everyone says HERC-DOOR, the most recognized and perhaps most specified glass entrance system on the market, is also the easiest and quickest door rail to install. Combine that with the fastest lead time in the industry and unmatched customer service, and it's easy to see why more glaziers and fabricators are choosing FHC's HERC-DOOR rail and patch fittings for their projects. FHC, you now have a choice. Visit them at FHC-USA.com. Thank you to FHC, and then thank you to my next two guests. Recorded about a week and a half ago, but still great stuff from Jason Douglas of H.B. Fuller, and then John Trainor of Architectural Glass and Sunshades. And here we go. Okay. Next up on the From the Fabricator podcast, I've got Jason Douglas, Vice President of Global Glass, Wood, and Composites at H.B. Fuller. You can check them out at hbfuller.com. They're a big player in our industry. And I'm really excited to get to know Jason. Talking to him right before I hit record, it's the first time I've gotten to talk to him kind of pseudo in person. We've communicated over LinkedIn and email. Jason, thanks so much for doing the pod.
It's my pleasure. Really looking forward to it, and always enjoy your work. So it's a pleasure to be invited.
Thank you. I'm honored. You and I have had some good conversations. You've brought some good things to my attention, which spurred me on to say I got to have him on the podcast because I want to learn, and we're going to do that. But we're going to start with. I always ask about everybody's background. I'm really curious. The other guest on this podcast is John Trainor, and I kind of knew a little bit about his background just because the Trainor family is everywhere. Now it's a different story. This is a blank page. Where did you grow up, go to school? How did you get into this crazy industry?
So I grew up in northern New Jersey.
Okay.
I went to Villanova.
Okay. Basketball fan, I assume, or
Yes.
you have to be, with Jay Wright and everybody there. So national championships involved. Nice.
Yeah, it wasn't great when I was there. Like Raleigh Massimino got fired when I was there.
No. Oh no. So you had the Steve Lapis era? Is that your era?
There was someone before Steve Lapis.
I got to think about that.
But in any case,
Okay.
so I get out of Villanova. It's 1992, and we were in a recession. I ended up getting a job for Vanity Fair Corporation, writing copy for fashion, which was not up my alley. So I ended up going to Taiwan and living over there for a couple of years and teaching English and studying Chinese. And then I came back and I was going to go to law school, and I took the tests and everything, was visiting schools. And my father called me up and he said, I'm going to try this distribution model, because he had been an independent sales rep for different glass companies throughout my childhood. Like we had a Lenhart clock in the family room,
Okay.
Nobody remembers who Lenhart is. Now it's so I kind of grew up in that. My father used to bring me to glass factories when I was 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
He'd go in the office and eat with people, and I'd go in the back and hang out with the hot melt operators, and they'd show me all their amazing scars and everything.
Wow.
So I kind of grew up in it, but again, was going to go to law school. And my father had made a deal with an Italian roll forming company, Profa Glass, in like 93. So come around 95, he called me up and he asked me to help him out for 6 months. So you know how that goes.
Yes.
Within a couple of months, he was like, look, I only like doing sales. Okay. So I don't want to do all the administrative crap.
Right.
So you do all the administrative crap and you have to sell in Brooklyn and Queens. I went out on the street, sold in Brooklyn and Queens. It's funny now, where I am now, we have product managers and marketing people and multimedia. And back then we didn't even have a brochure, we just had like a sample of the product.
Sure.
So what happened is I started selling in Brooklyn and Queens, and it just so happened that most of the customers were Chinese because they're so strong in IG, in New York City. So speaking Chinese helped. and really ended up getting much of that business. To this day, we still have many of those customers.
Nice.
So my company was called Ramapo,
Uh-huh.
and we had the spacers in the late 90s. We added desiccant and sealant, and the sealant was from Comerling, and that's
Okay.
how it kind of led up to this point. But yeah, that's how I got into it. Like anyone else, I washed up on the shores of the glass industry with no way to get out.
No, yeah. Well, once you get in, you don't get out. But I give you credit. So, Vanity Fair, you're definitely. I've had some interesting people who've worked for Frito Lay's and so on, but you're my first Vanity Fair guy or person. I mean, that's pretty wild. And neat. It's a neat path. So your dad wore you down to get you on our side of the world.
Yeah, yeah. It
I,
was just 6 months though,
I love it. I love it. And I am familiar with Ramapo. And so now, you're HP Fuller, VP there. Let's talk about that because I get accused a lot of times. And so in this case, it is for real. It's like you have these great guests on, but I never know like what their companies do. You assume that we should know. And so tell us, what's HP Fuller's focus on the glass industry and really what you provide and to who?
So H.B. Fuller traditionally in North America was really strong in residential IG. So like, for example, Intercept, we have the most complete line of hot melts, reactive hot melts, desiccant matrices. And really, we're quite strong in that area. In 2017, H.B. Fuller bought a company called Royal Adhesives, who owned Comerling in Germany.
Okay.
So when we added Comerling, Comerling had a full commercial line of IG sealants. So essentially, we took the Intercept stuff and we added to it two-part polyurethane, two-part polysulfide, silicone, TPS, and 4SG. So as a result, we've now become extremely strong in both residential and commercial.
Right.
We continue to innovate and bring out new products, but it's very much driven by innovation. And especially with the addition of Comerling, we added a lot of R&D resources. So as a result, we've developed things like reactive PIBs,
Hmm.
reactive warm melt glazing systems, again, a 4SG, which is a reactive thermoplastic spacer. So, we're very much geared toward collaboration. So, for example, at our headquarters in Willow Lake, we have the Glass Center of Excellence. We have a working 4SG line. We have a working intercept line. We have glazing tables. We have hand pumps. So, customers can come in and do prototypes, do different things,
Nice.
experiment. And then, of course, we have full testing capabilities as well. So we routinely test IG units for customers on a regular basis, especially if they're going to do prototypes. We'll test it before they submit it to the lab, for example, to give them feedback. So, we really have a lot of expertise in this area.
No doubt, no doubt. And the Forest G has really taken off. I mean, that's something that, was kind of, when you and I had started to communicate, it was one of those things where I know it was growing and I kind of miss it sometimes from a trend because it's been like a silent like growth. I mean,
It's
boom.
like the slowest growing phenomenon in the history of the industry.
Right. But people who get into it, they love it and it becomes like, the gospel sort of thing.
Yeah, so what happened with that technology was I started with it in like 98, right?
Wow. Okay.
And it was Schuco Homecraft was using it. And at that time it was TPS, a non-reactive thermoplastic desiccated spacer system.
Okay.
So it replaced the primary seal, the spacer, and the desiccant. So yeah, it was Schuco and Floral Glass, Chuck Kaplanik.
Yep.
Uh, and it was going really well. We started to add business, Virginia Glass, Traco. I think at say 2005, there's like 7 lines in the US. And then the failures started. So with TPS, being that it was simply a desiccated PIB, it was susceptible to the same compatibility issues as regular PIB.
Right.
So, if you use an incompatible glazing sealant or a setting block or a backer rod or any number of different things,
Yeah.
um, it would cause what we call the Garland effect, and it would just droop into the unit.
Right.
So it would lose adhesion and slowly migrate. And the unit was actually intact generally.
Yeah.
Like it failed, but it failed aesthetically pretty
Correct.
hard. So what happened was, it was a bloodletting. Chuck got out, sold to Oldcastle.
Right.
Virginia Glass got out of IG.
It's focused on monolithic tempers, right?
Schuco pulled out of the market. Um, I'm probably forgetting one Oldcastle had a line
Yeah.
in Toronto that never went anywhere. So there was one in Mexico. Um, in any case, come around 2009, there's one left, Traco.
Gotcha.
And Traco had a significant number of claims. Um, on the other hand, we were developing this new version of it because the thing about an IG manufacturer is when you make a unit, you don't generally have control over what happens to it after it leaves your factory.
Right.
So we knew that we could recommend glazing sealants that were suitable, but we couldn't guarantee anyone would use them. So a gentleman by the name of Harold Becker at Comerling developed this reactive version of TPS, which was 4SG.
Gotcha.
So the first customer globally was December of 2009, Traco. And
Okay.
after Traco started using it, from then until they stopped making IG, they didn't have one claim.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely full turnaround. Full turnaround.
Yeah. So then, it still took a few years.
Yeah.
Like I think our second customer was like in 2012. It was All Weather in Phoenix,
Right.
Lance.
Lance Porter. Right.
And then he got another line in California. And then we had a big breakthrough. We had been talking to Viracon for a couple of years about it. And, they run as many tests as you can possibly run, to
Yep.
qualify something. And also, they're probably one of the more conservative companies in the industry in terms of change. But, Charlie Boyer at the time was a VP there, and Charlie really got it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, it's not just about the end product, it's also about the automation that comes with 4SG. So, when you think about traditional methods, you've got a spacer bender, a PIB extruder, a desiccant filler, all these things, and all these variables for failure, essentially, because everyone's touching it. And Charlie kind of saw that. So I would say it took maybe 3, 4 years. And then Viracon actually got Lysic into the 4SG business. So Lysic built a line for Viracon. And Oldcastle followed soon after that. Um, and on the residential side, we had PGT,
Hmm.
flagship customer, and they'll tell you to this day they've made 7 million units without a failure.
Wow. Incredible.
It's really durable in any case. And of course, now they're owned by Miter.
Right.
So it spreads. So,
Sure.
let's say 2015, there were maybe 3 lines. I would say now there's about 50 and probably about 250 globally.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, because I think it was like 2018 at a G-Pad is when it really came back
Yes.
on the radar for me. And it was glass processing days when Ron Crowell and
Yep.
Fenatech owned it, and saw it for the first time. And I remembered the Virginia situation,
Yes.
and definitely remembered the Traco situation because my family used to sell Traco a lot of glass way back in the day. So,
Yep.
but it is. But the point being is it is a phenomenon now, and now it's rolling. And now
Oh,
it's when we talk about all these different trends and we talk about bird friendly for products and glass. I mean, when it comes to insulating, the 4SG TPS combo or whatever, however you want to explain it, that's a trend, a legit trend on the IG side.
yeah, without a doubt. And, if you look at like the average building in New York City, the people who bid on that job would typically be a Viracon, an Oldcastle, maybe TNG from China.
Hmm.
Uh, maybe Miette has gotten hard into the market from
Out of
Mexico,
Mexico. Yep.
and they're all selling the same technology. They're all selling 4SG units. So architecturally, and I know that we'll jump to it later, but in terms of that conservative mentality of architecture, having someone like Viracon on board
Oh
just
yeah.
goes such a long way because they're so influential.
Yeah, no, and I love the Viracon people. Charlie Boyer to this day is a good friend and a good man, and I
Uh,
love the folks at Viracon. So it's good that you're connected there. I've got Jason Douglas with me, Vice President of Global Glass, Wood, and Composites over at HB Fuller. See them at hbfuller.com. Let's talk about sustainability. It kind of almost goes hand in hand with what you do, and I think that it obviously, the one thing I read recently was Gensler said sustainability is the only option. It's the only focus. And I think obviously what you're creating is right in that wheelhouse, correct?
yeah, I think that, sustainability is a major platform for HB Fuller in general. So, we work with companies like IKEA, we work with automotive manufacturers, and we're always trying to introduce bio based adhesives and sealants. But at the same time, much of industry wants sustainability, but it also has to kind of coincide with their business goals as well. So, if I'm a company that wants to offer a bio adhesive, for example, when you think about it, the adhesive is a very small percentage of the end product. So, what are you going to say? Like, of 2% of my end product, 20% is bio. It's hard to get that back in the
Right.
marketplace. So, with a system like 4SG, it's actually more economical than most systems, intercept notwithstanding. So as a result, you've got the ability to do a big sustainability movement at a fairly reasonable cost. So, the big thing about sustainability for us is longevity and durability. So, you could have the best performing thermal product in the world. If it lasts 6 or 7 years, it's not sustainable.
Not at all. Not at all. Right. It's got to last.
So with the 4SG system, we've done testing at both external labs and internally, and we've run EN 1279 10 cycles in a row and then stopped the test. Even the units hadn't failed yet. So, the durability is a significant aspect of that. The thermal performance is the U values right at the top,
Right.
the other non-metallic systems. The other aspect of it is that because it's based in PIB, it is the most gas tight system on the market.
Okay. Good to know.
So with units, that we put into the field, um, we only test it when it leaves the factory, essentially. It could run out of gas on the way down the street and nobody would be the wiser. But that gas retention outside of the glass coating is the most important part of thermal performance. So the gas tightness is also a big thing. And because you're not replacing units as often, there's reduced operational carbon.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, Forest G plays really well into all of that, both from an energy performance and particularly the durability. The units last a long, long time.
It's big. It's funny. The durability is something that never comes up in the conversations when you talk about sustainability. It's performance usually is first. The footprint and so on. But it's the people don't talk enough about the durability, which
Yeah, yeah,
which I think you covered
so as
nicely.
well.
So let's curious on your thoughts on this, product adoption. You come from a place where you've had to get products adopted. You've invented products, you've brought new products to market. We in this industry are horrendously slow at welcoming these things. What do you think about that? How do we get better at that? Any magic words for those out there who are trying to improve our world here?
I think that from a window point of view, there's more freedom of acceleration of innovation. From an IG point of view, the reality is that architects are probably still most comfortable with aluminum spacer units because they know them,
They
they
know.
know how they work. So, I think to some degree, conservatism in terms of technologies is a good thing for the glass business. I think there's a history of certain products, TPS among them, that probably got to market ahead of themselves. And then, in the actual application and end use showed limitations that wouldn't have shown up in a lab test, for example.
Gotcha.
So in lab test, you test an IG unit, you don't put a glazing sealant against the silicone, for example.
Right.
So, I think that there's probably a few examples. I'm not going to name any names. I'll only
No.
name our product name TPS. And,
Yeah.
TPS, we still actually have that product in our product line, but it's typically used with like polysulfide, which is more chemically resistant. 4SG is the bulletproof version of it,
Of it.
where you even use it with silicone. So it bonds chemically to the glass and the silicone. And, when we went through these sales processes with people like Viracon, Pella has a line, Geldman has a line, they put it through so many different versions of tests that I think that the product earned its place over a fairly long period of time. Um, on the other hand, we have had some things that come into the market and then we end up with claims for certain reasons. But maybe it was more geared toward residential and not commercial, but we learned it the hard way. So I think that, from an innovation point of view, while we're very conservative, I think there's a good reason for it because
Interesting.
viability is huge.
It's a good take. That's an interesting take, and I think that you're right. I mean, I think it's the natural conservatism, just because the way we're all kind of built in this industry. But you bring up a good point about sometimes that actually works to our advantage versus trying to hustle something out that may not be fully baked. So
Yeah,
interesting.
and architectural IG is a real, testing ground because if you think about it, there's not that many products that go into architectural. It was aluminum, then it was stainless steel because it's
Right?
like aluminum, just better thermal performance. Then you've got Technoform and Chromatec Ultra and these other products, all basically the same idea, you know.
Yeah.
But, when you look at these other products, thermoplastics and flexible spacers, it's the automation, I think, that is the innovation to some degree.
Yeah, no question, because labor is the issue at the end of the day. Labor
Yes.
is the issue. All right, so mixing things up, I'm with Jason Douglas, Vice President of Global Glass Wood and Composites, HB Fuller, hbfuller.com. Light question, fun one for you. Curious on who your role model is and why. It could be somebody who's passed on or somebody who's current. Who's Jason Douglas's role model?
I'd have to say my father.
Nice, nice.
So,
Is he still with us? Is he still with
no,
us?
no, he
Okay.
passed away in 2015.
All right. Condolences there. Go ahead.
Thank you. He was, somebody who taught me that essentially, you're never going to be the smartest. You're never going to, be the best athlete or anything like that, but you can outwork anybody.
Nice. Nice.
Very simple, and then another aspect of it is the willingness to take risk. And what might be viewed as very risky from one point of view, if you're very confident that you're doing the right thing, then it's not really a risk at all, right? Because it's compelling to try and bring the industry the best products. Like, we always worked with high quality stuff. And he taught me that, essentially, if you're honest and you work hard and you bring things that actually are compelling, then, the only limitation to success is whatever constraint you put on yourself.
Nice.
I also look at people, like, especially in sports like Pat Riley, Mark Messier.
Yeah.
Music, Jerry Garcia, people that brought people together in a positive way and built teams that were greater than the sum of their parts.
True, true. I love the dad factor. I mean, I can relate to that, because my dad was unbelievable as well. And so I think that's really cool. And I like the lessons that he taught you. And then I just had the same talk with my son about, if you talk about like a Pat Riley, he always built great people around him,
Yes,
and things that he didn't know, he brought in those people. And I said to my son, I said, I always believe, and if you can't do something yourself, work with somebody who knows how to do it and do
absolutely.
it at the best they can do it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Team
and
up with the right people.
if I also think that there's a way to manage very talented people, and you need to keep giving them challenges and room for growth. And if you can surround yourself with people smarter than yourself, then
Can't go wrong.
it's holding you back.
Can't go wrong. I love it. Very, very cool. A couple more questions, my friend. Curious on, I keep saying curious because you got my mind racing here. I know that you're on that spacer seal business. You're in the chemical side of things, but I'm curious when you're out and about with equipment or any other technologies. Maybe it's even on the glass side because again, you're dealing with all of the big hitters. Any technologies out there that you're like, oof, I like that. That's going to be something that's great for our world.
I would say a few things. First, VIG has been around for forever. I mean, it
Hmm.
was 2008, Guardian, I read a press release where they're like, we will have a product at the end of the
Oh
year.
yeah. Yep.
So I look at VIG in conjunction with, a Forest G, for example, to make an IG unit. And I think you're almost getting, it's like you're almost approximating a wall,
Yep.
So I think that's hugely compelling, VIG in an IG unit. Thin triples is amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it's interesting, sometimes Europe is ahead of us, but in this case, I look at triples in Europe, you have to change your system because the units are wider, they're very heavy. And if you look at what Corning has done with thin
PGT. Yeah. That new agreement is fantastic. It's
0.5 millimeter, it's
yeah.
insane, So now your extrusion doesn't change. The unit is not heavier, but you're getting, you know what it is? It's so similar in a way to heat mirror. It's just
But
now instead of a film, it's actually a super thin piece of glass.
yeah, and definitely perfected. Definitely perfected. You're dead on. Good stuff. Good stuff. How is a couple more? How's life right now for HB Fuller this year, the rest of this year, and then what are you seeing for 2025? Yeah. I just don't know, and I talk about this pretty much every month with the election coming up. I just feel like anything's humanly possible in this world. How you feeling? How's business, and how you feeling about business for next year?
So right now, business is really good for HB Filler. So, we essentially are producing for IG in China, Europe, and North America. So we're seeing a huge acceleration in South America. For example, Technoglass in Colombia, they got a 4SG line.
Gotcha.
Uh, Other example, we have a customer in Argentina. So I see that a lot of that, undeveloped markets are the building codes are changing. Australia is another one. And in North America, I think where our industry is being hurt a little bit, well, obviously, is new construction. So, if you're heavily tied to new construction, I think generally it's off 10 to 20%. So commercial still fairly strong, but I wonder about that too, because, with all the hybrid working that we have now, like who's building office buildings and why?
Exactly. That's the scary thing. I mean, there are a lot on the books, but what are they going in for? It really should be more mixed use at this point.
And
Yeah,
also, how many companies had leases that went to 24, 25 that they're not going to extend
right,
because of, this huge change. But on the other hand, you look at it and we have a huge shortage of housing.
right.
So, that makes me feel very optimistic. I think obviously we're all looking closely at interest rates and, inflation. because psychologically, well, what's interesting is we're probably at the point now where if the interest rate went below 6%, people would be like, wow,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. There'd be
But
celebrations. Yeah.
that was like it for most of our life.
Right.
I mean, free money is a fairly recent phenomenon.
Yeah.
But I think when interest rates get below 6%, for example, hopefully we'll see growing availability of home ownership. But also the costs are really high right now as well, which is also hurting people's ability to get into a home, and that's why you have so many renters. Multifamily housing was just driving the industry for the last year or so, and that's starting to slow down as well. But I look at post-election, I think things will, well, who could say, actually? But interest rate wise, I think that 2025 is going to be much stronger. And we're also seeing the second half of 24 stronger than the first half.
That's yeah, and that's there's definitely some hope there still. So it's not all lost. I mean, the metrics are still solid, but there are some holes and there are some softness that has me concerned. And I appreciate your, what your insight is there. And you nailed it. There's some adventures ahead, regardless, and no doubt.
And for us, a lot of our growth is essentially coming from new areas because we were always a sealant manufacturer, and
Right.
now we're into the spacer space, which is huge. And most of it is all new business. We're not cannibalizing anything. And you look at technologies like Intercept, and we see the sheer productivity of Intercept and something like 4SG, where you can do large units and shapes and such, is very complementary. So, we don't see it necessarily gobbling up Intercept market share as much as we see it gobbling up other spacer technologies, because Intercept has that role. If you're making a lot of squares, you know, you can make a lot of them in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So I do think it's complementary to those types of technologies as well, which makes me optimistic for 2025.
Good, good. I like optimism. I like that. I like that. I get Jason Douglas with me, Vice President of Global Glass, Wood and Composites at HB Fuller, hbfuller.com. Last but not least, well, I see you in Texas at Glass Build. Good, good. I'm hoping you're making an appearance so we can meet each other in person. That would be great.
I'd love that. Yeah, I've gone to every show since I want to say 98. I even remember the inner glass metal shows
Oh
with
yeah, back in the day.
Douglas. Yeah.
And what I like about HB Fuller is that you guys had always approached the show with, we want to just network and we want to catch up with our customers.
Yeah.
And I love that comment because it was like, there is a time for you to say, hey, look at what we got here, look what we got there. But really it was that combo of, we want to sit down, we want to have a pop or a beer with our customer and talk
Yeah.
with them and really get, drive into it because you have that interpersonal communication. And you guys were always about that, completely, which always impressed me. So kudos to you and your staff on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're really transparent, and we feel like there's nothing to hide. We do really good stuff. We've got great people. So the more people know, the better it is for us.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, Jason Douglas of HB Fuller, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you in a few months at Glass Build, but continued success to you and yours.
Sounds good. Thanks, Max.
Hey Glazers and Fabricators, FHC, the frameless hardware company, is here to support your business. In addition to offering a complete selection of glazing tools and supplies to get the job done right, we design, engineer, and manufacture a comprehensive offering of frameless shower door systems, heavy glass doors, aluminum entrances and storefronts, architectural railings, transaction and display hardware. Privately owned and American made, FHC prioritizes you, the customer. You now have a choice. Visit FHC-USA.com.
Okay. Time for, I think, a neat one that I've tried to set up for a long, long time. John Trainor, General Manager, Architectural Grills and Sunshades. You can see them online at AGS Shade. So it's AGSS or AGSSHADE.com. How about that start? John, thanks for doing the podcast.
That second S is a hard one.
It is AGS Shade. I should just say it that way instead of reading it. AGSshade.com. Good website. So thank you for doing the podcast. I think there's a good amount of people who know you. I've talked to you here and there, but we don't really know each other very well. And so I always start off with a background because that's how I get to know people. So tell me, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? How did you? I have a feeling I know how you got in this industry. So I'm just curious, though, your story for it. Talk to me about your past.
First of all, I appreciate the opportunity, Max.
Great having you here. Thank you.
I grew up on the south side of Chicago, south suburbs. Uh, Went to St. Mary's University in Minnesota.
Okay.
So that's really the only time in my entire life that I've spent outside of Chicagoland area. Obviously, I got my start working for Trainor Glass. I spent my summers through college working Trainor Glass, primarily second shift. Second shift, we'd load the trucks,
Gotcha.
and we'd build the all glass doors. We'd assemble all the all glass doors on the second shift.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of my start.
Sure, sure. And so then how did you, because obviously Trainor Glass was a monster and there's a lot of trainers that are still obviously heavily involved in the glass industry. How did you end up at Architectural Girls and Sunshades? Especially, I mean, I know that you played around with that product and were a player in that world for a long time with your different companies, but how did you get to AGS?
So in the early 2000s, I was vice president of manufacturing or something like that at Duralco. So I was running the Duralco manufacturing side, and realized it was time to, there's several different families involved in Trainor Glass, and realized it was time to do something different. And I actually went on I interviewed with somebody looking for a job, looking for a change, and he's like, I won't hire you, but you need to just go start your own business. You need to do your own. You need to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And so I started putting together a business plan for AGS, and it's right. Picked a name back. You look back in history, and the name was picked so we were number 2 in suites, because
Right.
at the time suites was still printed and
Yep.
was still in a book that went out every year, and I was trying to get. I didn't want to be the first one, but I wanted to be in the top 3. So
I like it. I like it.
that's
So
how
it
we
was
actually came up
alphabetical.
with the
It
name,
was
and that's where.
alphabetical, right? Alphabetical was the so those who don't know,
Yep.
those who don't know, Suites was you had like everybody's brochure in one big like binder. Very cool. Very cool. So talk about what you guys do
And they
these
print them
days,
and send those books out every year.
which is amazing. What a
What we
pass.
do today, we primarily today we're a niche fabricator, primarily for the glazing industry. We do some other aluminum fabrication for some other industries, but primarily for the glazing industry. About 70% of our business is sunshades, and it's a makeup of typical 30-inch sunshades to the custom sunshades, whether it's the makeup, whether it's the design, the attachment, the projection, and that's a big part of our business, and that's one of the areas where we do excel. And then another growing part of our business currently is the parking garages.
Okay.
We've been very successful with some parking garages, and whether it's vertical fins, whether it's custom perforated panels, we put together a program or a way to, lack of a better term, unitize for the glazing industry panels where we minimize the field labor and they're not installing a bunch of individual pieces.
Gotcha. And so sunshades is the big piece, and then you've got the garage, screens and unitized, and so that you can basically sunshades is the sweet spot. And you go all over North America, or all over just the U.S., or you do Canada as well?
All over North America. We have shipped overseas. We've shipped to Hawaii, and we also locally in more geographically in the Midwest, we do fabricate storefront curtain wall.
Oh.
We've glazed quite a bit of cassettes for people, and we'll fabricate, assemble, and glaze smaller unitized curtain wall projects.
Nice, nice, nice. So I'm with John Trainor, Architectural Grills and Sunshades. Find them online at agsshade.com to hear everything he's talking about, see some projects. So how is business for you guys this year? It is an anniversary for you, in business. So a celebratory thing. So talk about how business is going. I know it's an adventure sometimes out there, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. We're just finishing our 20th year, starting our 21st. So it's been a fun year. Look back. We have several team members here who have been here for almost all 20 years. It's kind of funny how everybody has different jobs that are their favorite jobs, for whatever reason over the last 20 years.
Sure.
But to answer your first,
You've seen a few things over those last 20 years for sure.
There's been some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But the first half of 2024 has been strong. One of the nice things with serving the entire North American, not everybody's slowing down at the same time, and it's been strong. We still have a nice backlog for the second half of this year, so we're happy with where we're at in 2024. I mean, we certainly would like to be a little busier, but it's still a strong, positive year.
Good. I like it. So I always ask a fun one, and when I sent you this question ahead of time, so you're prepared, you're picking back on me. But I told you what's interesting about this question is some of the past answers. So the fun question is your all-time favorite food and why. And I will tell you, I don't know what you're gonna say, but I will tell you, I've had gas station sushi as one of the guests' favorite foods, which I would never in lifetime expect, and then I had Korean, which I was not on my bingo card either. So there's nothing you could say, I think, at this point that could surprise me, but you never know. So John, favorite all-time food and why?
I it's crazy. Man. I don't have an all-time favorite food.
Come
I
on,
love food,
right?
and I love to eat local food in cities when I travel. But you I've had some fantastic steak, and
Yeah.
nobody's going to turn down a nice steak. But pizza, is being from Chicago, not your Detroit
Right, not
pizza.
Detroit style. Got to have that Chicago style.
And
Okay. So if we're talking Chicago, is it Lou Malnati's? I mean, what's the pizza that when I come to Chicago, I got to get?
Lou Malnati's is one that everybody is more of a national.
Right, it's a
On the south
tourist
side,
tourist trap.
I go to Aurelio's would be my
Okay,
number one, or if I'm on the south side in the Beverly area, Fox's.
okay.
So some of it they're a little smaller, less.
Less publicized, because I do think it's like when I asked the cheesesteak question to the Philly people, they all have their own places to go because the tourists all find the others. So I assume Lou Malnati's, because I know about it, that's the tourist place for the most part.
Absolutely, and
Got
they
it.
do a great. I ship people Lou Malnati's, and it's a great pizza. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but
I I
they,
I,
they, they've
I
done a good job marketing.
yeah, they have. They have. I just struggle with the sauce, John. I'm a cheese guy, and there's so much sauce on some of the Chicago style pizzas that I can't handle that much sauce. And I'm a pizza guy. I love pizza, but I'll have to try Aurelio's or
Lou
Fox's.
Malnati's is the one that they put. I actually just scrape all the tomatoes off the top. I'm the same way. I can't take all the
Okay.
sauce.
I'm not alone. We had it at AI. It was AIA was in Chicago last year. We had it. I just couldn't. It was drowning in sauce. It was drowning. And it's like something can drown in cheese. I got no problems with it. Drowning in sauce, I'm in deep trouble. Deep
Yeah.
trouble. Good,
The
good.
first thing I do is take the fork and I wipe off all the extra
Okay, you're a good
sauce.
man. You're a
It's
good
all
man.
over the top.
You're a good man. And this was a good answer. We have another one in the best foods category. At least this is I love the descriptions of the Korean and the gas station sushi, but I'm not trying either one of them. For me though, this time when I come to Chicago, I will try one of your places, Aurelio's or Fox's, and we'll give that a shot and let you know. So for sure, I love
Other
it.
than Bucky's, I really try not to eat at gas stations.
There you go. You got good taste there. Bucky's is the only gas station to eat at. Maybe Wawa, but Bucky's is the best. I love it. Good taste. John Trainor, General Manager, Architectural Grills and Sunshades, agsshade.com. A few more questions for you. You talked a little bit about, your past. You've been in this industry for a while, so you've seen some things. We actually, chuckled a little bit about the things you've seen. But what do you think the biggest overall changes that you've seen in your career? I mean, it could be technology, it could be products, it could be a little of both. But what are some of the things that, when you look back at the past of John Trainor, what are some of the things that are the biggest changes?
I think technology really has been the biggest change. When I came in the industry, it was a big deal to have a fax machine.
Right.
Not everybody had a fax machine, but I never worked in the era where you phoned in your glass or your orders to people. I always worked in the era where you were at least faxing the PO. And now, fax machines are obsolete for the most part.
For the most part. I have a story in the fax machine in a second, but go ahead. Keep going. So, yeah, but you're right.
And
So fax was big. Go ahead.
so I just think to see where it's gone technology wise and what that's done to the submittal process, and it's increased the submittal process. It's increased the ability to get drawings back and forth, which is a big help. And like anything, there's positives and negatives, and there's some great positive to the technology. But one of the things that I think hurts a little bit is the relationships.
Right.
Is a lot of people, or some people, are reluctant to pick up the phone. They want to do everything via email, and it's harder to develop that personal relationship when it's strictly email.
It is.
And to me, that's still the part of the business and part of the job that makes it fun, is the relationships and the joking and the jabbing back and forth with people, depending on whether it's I'm jabbing at somebody over the Stanley Cup,
Right.
and I'm taking my jabs over the White Sox.
Oh, yeah, it's been not a good year there. Right. Yeah, I know you're right. And with email and text, the context is lost too. You can't really, you might get an email, and if you read it in the wrong way, you might think somebody's being pissy at you, and you could react back that way. And maybe they didn't mean that. Maybe they didn't have that context. And so, yeah, that's probably the negative. And the positive, though, especially doing some of the high technical things that you do, trying to do that without email and without attachments into, like a Dropbox or whatever, it had to be nightmarish, because, you had such intricate things, and I can't imagine you trying to send that via fax, and it being blurry, because the fax machines weren't exactly great for resolution.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and we used to, we would UPS all our submittal packages, and you'd be UPS and drawings, and people have to, UPS them back. So it's, some of the ability to communicate and send large files, again, like you said, through whether Dropbox or through email, or we share CAD files, with customers, where you can overlay each other's CAD drawings.
Nice.
And make sure everything's going to line up and fit when when you're working with either a radius or a complex corner.
And that's something, that's something, obviously, with CAD and BIM and some of the advancements there. You talk about technology, that's probably changed your business dramatically too in the last 20 years. Based when you started 20 plus years ago, CAD and BIM were kind of young. BIM wasn't really even around, CAD was, but it wasn't like it is now.
20 years ago, I still think CAD was pretty strong. There was not a lot of, I mean, we have always done CAD. We've never done, we don't have a job, other than like a sample maybe or something, that's hand drawn.
Okay.
We've always, CAD was definitely prominent when we started, and BIM, we still don't see a lot of BIM.
Yeah, the BIM thing is amazing, the way it will raise its head, and everybody talks about how great it is, and then it disappears, then it comes back, then it disappears, and it really is one of those mysteries of life in some areas, at least in our industry, at least. Maybe other industries are using it more than we are. So,
I've heard guys at BEC I believe it was Bagatellos who talked about it and how they use it on every job.
Wow.
And, we just we don't get the requests very often, and it definitely takes a lot more time to do it. Like anything else, there's some great advantages to it,
Sure.
but depending on what you're doing, sometimes it's also could be overkill for certain things in our industry, I believe.
No doubt, no doubt. And just to wrap up on the fax thing, two things. One is I was the same way when I started. I was still on the phone and we had just gotten the fax machines. So I was still taking orders by phone. But the fax machine adventures that I enjoyed is when we went from the thermal rolls to plain paper. When we switched to plain paper, it was like, discovering fire. I mean, it was like the greatest thing ever because the rolls, you had paperweights everywhere to keep the rolls, because after you ripped them off, they would all curl back up and they would fade. And when we got a plain paper fax, that thing was the greatest. I thought we had like seriously discovered like, new worlds.
You didn't think anything was ever going to be better than that. You
No.
thought that was no. I'm with you. The funny story with the fax when I was younger, there was a person who used to always get to the office first because he wanted to get the faxes. So people would say, some of the jokes that people used to email around,
Yeah,
that started with the fax machine.
sure.
So he always wanted to see what was being sent to who
I,
and what jokes are on the fax machine in the morning.
I love it. I love it. I love it. John Trainor, General Manager, Architectural Girls and Sunshades. Check them out, agsshade.com online. A few more questions for you. And by the way, on the fax machine, do you know that the second most registrations for glass build usually each year still come via fax?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's still a lot of people in this glass industry that use the fax machine. So hey, as long as they're coming to glass build, I don't care how they send us the registration, but it is kind of fax is still very, very popular, which is amazing. Amazing. Looking at what we've got in our world, it's a two-sided question. Again, because of your experience and everything you've covered and your success and so on, what has you excited about the glass and glazing world? And then on the flip side, what are you most concerned about?
What's got me excited is some of the sustainability, the green building, but in doing that, we've seen a lot of exciting projects come out where the architects are definitely getting outside the box and they're creating some very distinctive, attractive buildings, which obviously helps AGS because it's in our niche. But it's nice to see them not just creating that just a box.
Right.
There's some really exciting, creative, unique projects that have been done and that are on the drawing boards.
Nice. Nice. And we need sustainability in our world and we need that creativity. And it's nice when people are using products like yours to show off what we can do. So I like that.
And as far as concerns, my biggest concern um, is somewhat an over regulation. It seems like we're seeing a lot of different regulations, and as you work, as for us, we're working across all of North America and beyond, and trying to keep up with. Oh, this city just did this regulation, and they have this in place, and or this state, and you're getting away from a little bit of that the U.S. building code, and there's always been some modification to it, but it
Right.
seems to be more and more local regulation modification to the building code, whether whether it's bird glass, whether it's a higher UV, and some of it, I don't know if they done the research and know whether or not it's achievable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. It's a great thing to bring up because especially, I see it a lot with the bird. The bird thing is ridiculous from the standpoint of how every municipality almost has their own rules on that instead of anything overriding. And we are seeing it with, energy codes, and now also, with security as well. And so it's a good point that over-regulation is a problem. And you are in Chicago, in the Chicago area, and they love making the rules over there. Uh,
Absolutely.
they love making.
Absolutely. They've always had the Chicago Building Code. They can never do
Yeah.
they've always had to have their own.
You've had to march to that different drummer your entire career, so I can only imagine if you like lived in Texas where regulation is pretty light, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. You know,
It'd be,
I think it'd be a little bit of a struggle. I mean, aside from being out of the south side of Chicago, but not having that regulation on your back the entire time.
not having regulation, and they're certainly a lot friendlier to businesses in their
Yeah.
what regulations they do have.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So, well, before we wrap up, again, John Trainor, this has been fun. Architectural Girls and Sunshades, agsshade.com. Got to check that out. 2025. I think it's going to be interesting because again, you said earlier about, you guys are doing good right now, doing fine right now, but, there are spots of the country that are, busier than others. And so it kind of carries it. I think 2025 is going to be kind of interesting because we obviously have the election here at the end of the year, which could turn us in a bunch of different directions. I guess first and foremost, you got the Democratic National Convention coming to your town. Do you want to get into the board up side of work? Because I have a feeling there's going to be some board up opportunities.
It's funny you said that. I was at a golf outing last week, and there was a bunch of glaziers, and the one guy's like, "Well, we at least had the convention. We'll have some board up work."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'd be stocking up on the plywood right now. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of work. But how's 2025? How's it look? How's it feel? You got great people like Nathan out there that are hustling for you. Nathan Seaman. Sorry. 2025. What's it look like for you guys in AGS?
It's still hard to tell, to be honest with you, Max. We have a couple anchor jobs, which is nice. So going in as of right now, we already have a couple nice projects for next year. But we certainly have a lot to fill in the hopper.
Mm-hmm.
And, and as I talk to people throughout the country, different customers, we're all kind of in the same boat. There's a lot of nice big projects out there. Everybody's been quoting projects and re-quoting the same project and then quoting that project again. And is the election going to trigger people pulling the trigger and saying, "Hey, let's go, let's start this"? There's a lot that are like right there, ready to build. That at some point, people are going to say go, and some people have pointed out as when they say go, nobody's going to be the last one to want to go. So everybody's going to, once one goes, people think they're going to also go.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is it going to be interest rates? Is it going to be the election? I don't know, but 2025, I think the first half is still going to be a little soft but the second half potentially still could be crazy busy.
Good. It's funny that what you're saying vibes with what I've been hearing as I've been traveling the country is that, there's a lot of jobs that are bidding and rebidding and so on because they're just, they're coming back out. They got put on hold or delayed, but a lot of jobs that are at the finish line, and just need to be, literally the switch needs to be flipped, whatever the case may be. And I've heard about, massive projects in places like Charlotte and other areas that are just like waiting, to go. So, hopefully whatever that impetus is, whether it's the election or an interest rate change or something, I mean, it'd be nice for that to happen so we can keep some positive momentum going, for sure. But this is you're saying a lot of what I've heard, so at least I don't feel too crazy out there since you're well connected to this world.
I try to be not nearly as well connected as you.
No, you're there. You're there. Well, I see you. Will you be walking the floors at Glassbuild this fall in Dallas? Will you make it? It's Texas. You got to come to Texas and see how the other half lives.
Absolutely. You know what? That's one of the things that, part of that, when we're talking about technology and things like that, it's kind of replaced the original need of a trade show. Originally those trade shows, that was the only way you could break through with a new product. That was right. Where you're, but now to me, it's such an important part of getting out and having some face-to-face with customers, helping develop relationships, make new relationships. So yeah, no, I will definitely be at Glass Build, and those events are important. We haven't displayed much over the last few years at Glass Build. We've done more of the smaller tabletop local shows.
Yep. And that's
But
where I last saw you in Florida. We were in Florida together at the Glass Expo Southeast, and so that was nice. Yeah.
Yes,
So
they scheduled that in Florida in January, Max.
not stupid. That was not a stupid call. You know, and I think the next one is what the Glass Expo West is in January in like San Diego or something like that. It's another smart call for. I'm in Detroit. You're in Chicago. Those are really smart planned shows, though. You know,
Yeah,
for
that's not a tough
locations.
sell. But
Yeah.
but they're good shows, and you make some good contacts there, and it allows you to, especially on the smaller side, it helps you have some, develop some good relationships.
And that's a great point. You know, we because of what we said earlier with the email and the texting, and to be able to get to these places and meet people and talk to them face to face and get to know them, and have a pop with them or a beer or whatever, and that does replace kind of what we've missed. So the networking is huge. So so I look forward to seeing you in Texas, and we can hang out for a few minutes together. That'll be great.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We can talk pizza there and everything else, but this has been great. John Trainor, GM at Architectural Girls and Sunshades. They're celebrating. Is it 20 years or 21 years?
We're just at the end of 20, so we're about to start 21 in August. So
you're about to be legal.
It's been our 20-year.
Yeah. So drinks on by the time we get to Glass Build, drinks will be legal for you guys. You'll be 21, and it'll be good. So 21 years, Architectural Girls and Sunshades, agsshade.com. Thank you, sir, for doing this. I look forward to seeing you here soon.
Thank you, Max. I appreciate the opportunity.
This was awesome. Thank you.
It's fun.
Okay, that'll do it for this month on From the Fabricators podcast. Max Pearlstein, your host here. And thank you to Jason and John. Fantastic interviews. And I look forward to seeing more from them in the future. And thank you to FHC for the sponsorship. This episode and was brought to you by them. FHC, you now have a choice, FHC-USA.com. And we will see you all next month, hopefully with a little bit more energy and better things going on. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Oh, the music is stopped.